Good morning, everyone. Mark from On the Wrong Lead. If you were paying attention last night to the stuff we're putting out, we had our live stream, and you should be watching our live stream because they're awesome. 8:30 Eastern every Thursday evening. Tune in. You'll get a lot of good racing content for the big races coming up that weekend. But if you were watching, you saw us cover the Whitney sequence this coming Saturday at Saratoga. And one thing we're always getting is people looking for more content about how we actually structure tickets around our opinions. And if you watch those streams, it's really hard for us because we're trying to keep things moving along, so we may only talk about one or two horses. We may like 6 horses in a race, but only talk about one or two of them. And we all may talk about the same horse who we think is the most likely winner, and we feel like we have to talk about other horses, so we do talk about them, but we may have no interest in actually using them. And we all obviously have our opinions about how a race is going to unfold, and that's going to dictate ticket structure. So I want to talk about this sequence because it is an absolute doozy. It's a really good one to walk through from a ticket construction standpoint and how you might leverage your opinions. So what I'm going to do here is I have a couple of things spooled up. This is an Excel spreadsheet that was made by Stephen Fox. He's Evil Bob Dole if you're a Discord person. And he makes these up. DRF put their ticket maker behind a paywall. So somebody just created an Excel sheet that does the same exact thing. This allows me up here, you can see, hopefully you can see my mouse pointer, there's an ABC section on the middle, and I am an ABC handicapper primarily, and that means that I'm looking to play multiple tickets and leverage my opinions. So I want my best opinions to have the most money going through them, and I want my other opinions to still have some money going through them because I'm not always 100% right. So this sort of a ticket creation spreadsheet allows me to build up those sequences and see the amount of money that I have invested and maybe where that money is going through, how it's invested through. So we're going to talk through the sequence. We're going to start with race 6, which is the Lure Stakes. And if you watched last night, I think we all kind of said value proposition is your most likely winner in here. And I guess before I get too far into the weeds here, first off, my philosophy is I would much rather hit a pick 6 than have an outsized score. So what that means is that I tend to a pick 5 for me is, let's say, $250-ish investment, and I'm looking for 10x returns. So I'm looking to have a $2,500 score. So I'm going to ticket and structure that appropriately. My budget might be bigger or smaller than yours. So if I'm structuring this sequence in a way and you go, I can't afford to spend $250 on a pick 5, you have a couple options. One thing would be you could scale the sequence down, meaning you could play your best 3 race opinions in this sequence as ABCs, and you would have a smaller investment. And if you only had maybe a $50 or $100 budget, you'd be able to squeeze it in there. The other option you have is looking at the sequence and making some harder judgments than I am making, saying, hey, you're using 3 horses as A's, I'm only going to use 1, or I'm going to make an ice cold single, which is not something that I often will do. So you have to understand this is sort of my philosophy. I'm looking for that 10x kind of returns. There are people out there that play these sequences and they're looking for 100x returns. If you're doing that, you're more likely going to have more leverage and you're going to have harder opinions. You're going to be wrong more often, but when you're right, they're going to pay more. That's something you have to personally figure out. What is your inherent risk bias? And play accordingly. So in the Lure, I think value proposition is your most likely winner. The other horses I was really interested in, I think Flavius makes some sense. A horse that I want a little bit through. And the other one that I really liked in here was Temple. I think Temple is that sort of one-run closer into a race with a lot of pace. And so I think Temple could be a major play in here. And then there's a couple others I want in here as well. So I'm going to kind of start throwing some tickets in here, and you'll start seeing how it populates things. And by the way, this is the actual pick 5 that I will end up playing. And I will probably play it just about exactly how I have it here. And I'm going to change the base bet's 50 cents. I want all my A's at least twice. We'll see what that comes out to be. But at 312, and then we were talking about Flavius. I think he's usable in here. If we go back, I was looking at somebody like Tell Your Daddy, who Josh really likes this horse. I think it's a horse that is an ABC construction, and if you're not super familiar with ABCs, it's me leveraging my opinions. A's are my best opinions, B's are also use opinions, and C's are horses that have some chance, but I think it's an outsider chance. And there's different ways you can leverage those different opinions. And I think Tell Your Daddy becomes a B. It's probably a C on the win chance. I think this horse is a fairly low win chance horse, but if it does, it's going to blow up a lot of people's tickets, much like Temple. And I think that morning line on Temple is hilarious. I think the horse has a much better chance of winning than 1 in 15 times for them running the race. So I made Temple an A, and I made Tell Your Daddy a B. Now, I'm not simply making my ABCs based on their chances of winning. I'm making my ABCs, I'm looking at both their chances of winning and the value proposition if they do so. So I want a little bit of him in here. Another horse that I know a lot of the guys liked on the stream and I wasn't as high on was Dreams of Tomorrow, but I think this race is a little bit wide open. So I'm going to add a little Dreams of Tomorrow in here. And the other two that I don't want to be dead to, so I am inherently using, are going to be a little bit of Fighting CB, who is 1-for-1 at Saratoga and is pretty decent at this distance. And the 6 Midnight Tea Time, who is 0-for-8 across the track, which is why this horse ends up being a C, but the horse does sort of fit on figures. So I thought those were interesting in here as well. And this is one of the races that I wanted a little bit of coverage on. I wanted to spread out my opinions. So let's flip on to the Glens Falls race 7. I think we all had somewhat similar opinions here that Warlike Goddess is a real monster, but I don't love the jock. I'm not a huge Julien Leroux fan. He's not good at Saratoga. He's historically been a very poor performing jock at Saratoga. And so I really want to go someplace else. I think Delika is controlling pace in here in a race with pretty much no pace. So that, for me, is, and Caleb did mention this last night. Warlike Goddess, I think Josh mentioned it as well. I don't want to ostracize Josh, but I think Warlike Goddess has fired in the past into very slow paces. So it's a horse that you have to give respect for being able to do so. And I think Delika is the horse in here that's going to be making the pace. So I want both of them as A's with how I sort of approach things. The other horse I was a little interested in, Call Me Love, does make a little bit of sense. I wish Junior was riding it a little better than 6%. Wish Clement put somebody else up on here, because I oftentimes look at jocks being on a horse as intent from the trainer. Junior being up here makes me think that this horse is not nearly as live as I wish it was. And the other horse I had in here was My Sister Nat. I hate her. I think she's got about 0% chance of winning, but boy, are you going to feel stupid if you were perfectly right on a pick 5 sequence and Chad Brown on a short price beats you. The one thing I'll say with My Sister Nat, she's a very binary horse to me. I think that if you were somebody like myself who wants to be live and is okay with spending a little more and having a little bit lower ROI on your pick 5s but hitting more of them, she's a must-use type. If you're somebody who wants those big scores, she's a toss. You get rid of her. And maybe you single somebody like a Delika who you think can steal it on the front end, and a lot of people may be ignoring because of the connections. Alsall has been very good at Saratoga, but he brings Mana in, which I think for a lot of people, they're going to go, I don't know that jock, and I'm not going to use that horse because of it. So I'm going to make both of those horses C's. Let's go on to the third leg here, which is the test. In the test, you sort of have some interesting opinions in here to make. I think Search Results is probably the classiest horse in the field, if we're going to use the term classy. I don't know why she's here, though. I don't know why they're trying to shorten her up to 7 furlongs, and that scares me. So I also want somebody like Bella Sophia, who's outdrawn outside of her, is the speed of the speed. And Bella Sophia, if you look at a pace projector in here, and I will pull that up, Bella Sophia should get pretty stupid loose. You can see her way over here on the right side of the pace projector all by herself. She should be able to make her own trip. And I do really like that at 7 furlongs at Saratoga, which is, it plays, not as speed biased as shorter distances, but still a pretty speed biased distance. So I think I need to make both of them A's for me to feel comfortable. And then I want horses that have upside. I mentioned Obligatory, and I don't quite know if this horse becomes an A or a B for me. When I talk through these, obviously I'm doing this on a Friday morning. I have not seen works yet. If obligatory is working lights out, I actually may move somebody like a search results down a little bit because I think obligatory has a ton of upside, and I think this is the right distance for how she runs. So for now, let me make her an A. There's a chance though these might move around somewhat, and hit me up on Discord. I'll give you my final play before everything goes live. But I think there's a lot of others in here who may be true one turn 7 furlong types, where I really think search results probably wants a mile and a 16th, a mile and an eighth. I mean, she's run really well at a mile and an eighth. I just don't understand why they're cutting her back here. Obviously, Chad's a smart guy, but something feels funny. So I'm going to spread a little bit in here. I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, and... Oh, I'm sorry, I have the 4. 2, 3, and 5 here. So I realize so far this ticket is pretty thick. I'm going to be a little skinny late, so I'm okay with being a little thick early. So let's hop into the Saratoga Derby. And by the way, if you're somebody else and you're planning saying, geez, I love this horse. You know, I love XYZ horse someplace. Well, you don't have to play what I play. Add it in. Play around. I will put the ticket builder up. You can do whatever you want, and you can see what these tickets look like and what your spend would be. And play to your budget. Figure out what your budget is. Now, we'll say, just kind of stopping for a second, a lot of people get themselves in trouble with ABC tickets because they build their tickets to a budget. They say, I have $100 to play this pick 5, and I'm going to make a $100 ticket. That's a really dangerous thing to get into. If you need $300 to get the adequate coverage in a race, and you start cutting horses, you're going to be really pissed when you're like, oh, I liked 3 horses there, but I only had the budget to play 2, so I cut one, and of course the one you cut always wins. So don't get in that sort of a mentality. So, in the Saratoga Derby, I think Caleb and I both kind of gushed over Cadillac, which probably means the horse has 0% chance of winning in here, but I'm going to get pretty aggressive to Cadillac, and Cadillac is going to be my only A in this race. I absolutely, I thought Cadillac lost all chance in that juvenile turf, and this horse took a massive step forward first start in his 3-year-old season. I think he's a monster. His regular jock comes over to ride him. That last race was extremely impressive if you go back and watch it at the Kerr, and that was, a fairly deep patrol with, Dawn Patrol is very well thought of, and there was a couple of others in that race who are fairly well thought of horses. And that was just very, very impressive, and I think he's really loaded. Bolshoi Ballet won the Belmont Derby. If you look at his form, though, you can see that he'll win a couple and then throw a massive clunker in. I don't know what happened in the Kazoo Derby. He should have won that St. Cloud Crit. I don't know what happened and why he sort of just didn't show up. He's more of a grinder as well, and I like little punchier types at Saratoga, especially at any surface, more so on the inner, but I want a little more late kick. And I think, Saratoga plays a little funny, and the front straights don't play as long as other tracks. I don't love him as much in this spot, although he's an obvious player. Other horse I want, a little bit of Secret Protector in here, who I think is a little bit interesting as well. I wish a different jock ended up on him. And the other horse that I was a little bit interested in here was somebody mentioned both Yes this time, and I 15-1 says on turf you're gonna feel like an idiot if that horse beats you, and the other horse was Celis. There we go. I think Celis is the one American horse that makes a lot of sense. Again, I'm a little concerned about the jock, so I'm gonna play it this way. I'm gonna take Bolshoi Ballet as a B. And I think I'm going to probably add Celis in there, so I at least have an American horse as a B. Not that that really means anything, but I think the horse does make some sense. And then I'm going to add the 5 and the 7 out here as C's. This may move around slightly. Let's see what the final budget comes out to be, and we'll go from there. So, race 10, the Whitney. I think that, I think Nick's Go really towers over this field. Nick's Go is going to be my lone A. I'm a little bit confused about what I do with somebody like a Maxfield. I think he's your most likely horse if Nick's Go doesn't show up, but he needs to close, and Nick's Go can be controlling pace in here, and I don't know how fast Nix Go goes. I don't know if Nix Go can go slow though. So I don't really quite 100% know what to do with Maxfield. I'm going to, for now, leave him in here as a B, and I'm going to make Swiss Skydiver a C. And the reason I'm making Swiss Skydiver a C is, and I know a lot of people love her, is the fact that she had a break in her training. This was not the plan. This was a last-minute change of things. And I sort of worry if something's off, something feels weird. Like, I almost feel like that cycle was broken. She might need a race after this race, reset her, and then you want her in the next start. A lot of things in here scare me. So what we're looking at right now is a $135 ticket. So that gives me 2 times my A's. So if this all A ticket hits in with those 2 single A's late, I have it twice. And then I have some coverage to the rest of the field with B's. Now, if you were somebody who doesn't have ABC built into your ADW, by the way, if you'd like ABC built in your ADW, I will put a AM wager thing down below as well. They have it built right in. I mean, you just literally go through, you label your horses A's, B's, and C's and click submit. Super easy. If you were somebody playing this on a regular ADW, you would need to play each one of these tickets. But it's really quick and easy to kind of punch these in. Just be careful because you're going to end up punching, 12 or something tickets in. Make sure you're punching enough in. If you take a look over at the right here, it actually shows how much money of that 135 you have going through any respective horse. So you can actually, and it'll actually show you percentage as well. So, I have 31.11% of my money. I'm sorry, whoops, my bad. I have, I'm looking at the wrong spot, 75.5% of my money going through Nix Go. And I think that's basically his chances of winning that race, are roughly 75%. What's nice about this sheet is you can look over here and say, oh, geez, I have, let's say you thought Nix Go was was only a 50% winner. Well, then you would have too much money going through Nix Go, and you would want to pull that number back a little bit. And I don't know why Swiss. Oh, I bet you that's why. Hold on. See if it updates here. Yeah, there it is. Whew. It wasn't showing Swiss Skydiver. It just took a second, and you can see now it's down to 72% through Nix Go, and only 4% through Swiss Skydiver. That may be a little low for Swiss Skydiver. She might be more like a 10% win chance, but this allows you to kind of really see where you have money going in a sequence and really finagle that out. Now, until I've seen works, this is probably where I sit, and that ends up probably being very similar to the pick 5 that I end up playing. And I also want to make one other note. I'm obviously taking, in legs 4 and legs 5, I'm taking that Cadillac into Nix Go thing pretty aggressively, right? There is some logic which says if you were somebody and you said, I have $100 budget and these are my opinions, a 4-4 daily double in those last 2 legs would lower your variance, because we know Swiss Skydiver is going to take a lot of money because it's the filly versus the boys, and we know people are going to try to beat Nix Go. And I think a lot of people in the US aren't good at handicapping European horse form, so I think that Celis might be a little bit, Cadillac might be a little bit under bet. Sit down and think about it. Are you better off with this $141 wager structure and if you were to say only have a $100 budget, of lowering and just playing an ice cold $100 daily double instead of playing this, instead of trying to cut this down and make your ABC structure a little bit smaller so you can get that pick 5 score? I bet you that 4-4 daily double probably pays more than this pick 5 does. Maybe that's really the play. So I wanted to walk through some of my thought process, how I build one of these out. Hit me up on Discord, hit me up on Twitter. I will be around all weekend. I will be on track Saturday if you're looking for any horse pictures or you want pictures of the track or anything like that. But until next time, good luck at the races.